expert in ICT for development, and you've worked with, as well, you've worked with government and you've worked with private companies. In terms of this specific topic, what is your take in Gambia's preparedness, especially in the term of sovereignty? Because if you know, I'm asking you this question because you're somebody who has been there during the initial negotiations, especially with the Belgium. So I would fail to do this topic justice if we don't bring that into the conversation. Because even our Belgium is not currently in the Gambia. What are the implications of something like this?
Assalamu alaikum and good morning, everyone. Thank you, Menge. I didn't expect her to hit me with such a very strong question in the end. So since your questions carry triplets, I'll sort of name them one by one. It's really a pleasure to be here. I remember the Internet Governance Forum, since we first started doing them, attending. And we know that the ICT sector has really grown so much in Gambia. And I think for the topic today regarding economic resilience and digital sovereignty, I think it's very important in our time. The reason is because we are sitting at an age and a period where we've already had a huge penetration rate of both internet usage and also mobile usage and all of that. So now we have got to the point where we start to think about how can we have the right policies, the right structures that can really help protect us in utilizing these tools. And as softwares, and like she mentioned, artificial intelligence is coming up and everything, there needs to be some sort of guideline, some kind of ethics attached to it. So I think really moving forward, it starts from individual, meaning from your laptop, from your phone. What kind of digital sovereignty do you have as an individual regarding the hardware that you use, whether it's your laptop or your phone? And then also you look at what are the things I can download, and do I understand what the policies and arrangements are? Do I violate them? That's the first part. Then you have the other aspect, which is with dealing with companies. Do you have the right policies? And for many of you who are in the IT industry, you know that once you have a lot of infrastructure, you need a disaster management or recovery plan. Do you have that? These are the things that will help you be more resilient in terms of utilizing these hardwares and softwares. The other thing also regarding digital sovereignty is, it's really, let me just break it down first. In my view, digital sovereignty is really all about how you store data, how you collect data, how you share data, and whether you have guidelines really to be able to protect yourself. So you have citizens who are using systems, whether it's e-government system or whether it's a platform like an ID card where everyone is utilizing it, everyone is sharing their data, their personal information. Now it's up to that institution to ensure that your data, your information is protected. Protected from what exactly? Not exactly just hackers or people who can do crime with your identity, but also with the aspect of advertisements, spam, all these different things you can be prone to. And you'll be amazed that there'll be people who pay so much money to have access to your data and your identity. So something you keep as close as your purse and your wallet at all times with you needs to also be protected by the institution or state. So when we talk about digital sovereignty, it's really about what can we ethically do, what can we do looking at our country, looking at our rights to see how we can protect and have better control over our digitalization, over our data, over our hardware, over our softwares, and in general the supply chain of utilization. In terms of economic resilience, my views on that is that we need to continue to answer the needs that the industry has. We need to continue to be more creative. And this is mainly for mostly the softwares and coming up with the software developers. What kind of solutions can we do that will help make our lives easier? Because that's what all technology is about, is how to make things easy. In terms of the implications of the .gm mega, this has been a long fight. And it's not only the fight of Gambia, but it's a fight of many countries, and it's been ongoing for a long time. The only way we can fight that is really to be prepared. You know, we can't say that we don't want to be under the protectorate of someone when you're not ready to be independent. So we not only have to raise the capacity, but we have to be able to show that we can maintain it. And that requires a whole lot of growth, and once we have the capacity to uptake, then we can really fight to actually maintain it. Because, you know, that would be one aspect of it. And the second thing is we're going to have more situations like the .gm as technology grows. So we need to keep an eye out quickly and say, oh, how do I protect that? You know, whether your name is Adama Ba or something, you are doing some great thing, you have a great solution, are you protecting your name? You know, you have a good idea, something, are you protecting that? Because you don't know where you're heading, so it's important that when you know that you have something great, you protect that. Institutions also to protect the names of the institutions so that we can better protect. So these are the things we can do in between that for the time being. So that's my contribution for now.
Thank you very much, and please come back and rescue us. Of the record. Thank you very much, Fatim. She really did hit the nail on the head. And like I said, driving the notion of preparedness home. We as a country need to be prepared. COVID came and went. We were not prepared. AI is coming and it will go. We are not prepared. Fintech has been gone. We are not prepared. We need to start taking these conversations seriously as a country. And the ministry I am putting you on decoupling of the century from the Ministry of Information, Moise to now multi. So this, to us as the general public, it shows that the government is beginning to prioritize, technology and everything that it needs to grow within the ecosystem. So on that note, now that you are a separate ministry of your own and you have the platform, you've been given the priority to focus and center topics of economic development using technology. What are some of the plans that you have in terms of policies to promote, build, and mainstream digital sovereignty?
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, fellow panelists, very powerful ladies we have. Reverend Fatima and Dr. Jojo, I hope I can be asked by my fellow panelists. When I left my office earlier, I was supposed to moderate a panel in the afternoon. I walked in and decided to say hi to Madam President. And then all of a sudden I have to be on this panel. Well, thank you very much. So I think essentially to begin with, I want to say also in Sao Paulo at the Net Mondial. Because as government, in fact, a little and we just gather and talk and nothing happens. But essentially, for me, a lot has been happening. I want to indicate. In fact, that takes me to the question, the decoupling of the ministry. I want to believe it is something that was triggered by the ecosystem, especially from the Asian government's movement, because for too long, I think the ecosystem has been crying, that government is not really prioritizing ICT, because essentially, if you look at it, what we have is, we know ministers are political figures, but most of the ministers that we've been having at the ministry are mostly media biased. My apologies to the media folks, but they were mostly media biased, but when they get to the ministry, usually they realize media is more 5–10%, and the reality is business as usual. From one of the minister is here, so you understand the business is ICT and the telco industry. That is the business. So I think government has listened to the cries of the ecosystem, and then His Excellency the President last year decoupled the ministry into two standalone ministers. Information and of course communications and digital economy. And we have someone from within our midst who is technology service serving as a minister, very dynamic sector. So we are very proud to have Honorable Bahtu Sa, who knows, who has been in the Silicon Valley for decades and who come back home to serve as minister. So essentially, back to the question. Sometimes I talk too much, but back to the question. If you look at it, since the decoupling, our priorities essentially have been how do we harness the digital economy? Because we know the next panel we will have data is on data, but we always say data is the new oil, but essentially data has surpassed oil. If we look at the statistics in Big Brother Nigeria now, what the digital economy sector is contributing has surpassed what the oil and gas industry is actually contributing to the GDP. So essentially, Gambia, we are listening, and the trajectory is we want to harness the digital economy. How do we do this? Should we do business as usual? No, essentially, policy. We need to do policy rethinking. We need to have U-turns and to have new directions. But again, the infrastructure has to be robust enough. So this is why policy is there. The priorities has been addressing infrastructure, of course. We know we have one submarine cable. If you want to address the digital economy, you need to make sure that your infrastructure is properly addressed. Because earlier on our WhatsApp group, we were complaining about the internet. And I am sure some of you using the Wi-Fi will actually know that the quality of experience is not as what we want. We have people connecting remotely. So, and then now you're talking about harnessing the digital economy, making sure that everything you are actually trying to get either a cashless or cash-light economy, so that the cash transactions will be minimal. So how do we do that? You need to address the infrastructure, possibly by getting a redundancy. As a country, we only have one submarine cable. Government is working on getting a secondary submarine cable, and through the World Bank Support Project, we have funds to address the secondary submarine cable, and so many other things. On the policy rethinking, we have the National ICT for Development policy that was in place, and we need to have a rethink of that. Now, that was 2018-2028, we're in 2023 now. So we want to do an MTR of that to inculcate the new direction and new priorities of the ministry. Part of our priorities is making sure that we have a digital identity. Every citizen needs to have your digital ID that will be pinned to all the transactions you do. How do we do that? We've already started engaging, because the Ministry of Interior is responsible for ID cards in the Gambia. We are trying to engage. Sometimes I want to indicate it's a little tough to bring about some of these conversations, because people feel you are stepping on their toes, which we are not. But this is the Ministry of Digital Economy, and I want to indicate Cabinet has actually directed that, in fact, henceforth, every other ministry that is rolling out an ICT project, you need the blessing of this ministry, whilst we operationalize the ICT agency. So I think a lot is actually happening, but when we take the conversation further, we can actually indicate some of our priorities. But on the payment gateway also is one of the top priorities. And then we have a technical committee on the payment gateway comprising of Central Bank and GAMSwitch. We've been having very, very heated engagements and debates, sometimes very, very heated in fact. But I think the objective at the end of the day is the same. As a country, we have a country to build, and it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to actually make sure we put aside our differences. And it's not our business as usual. This is the ministry now responsible for digital economy. How do we harness the digital economy? We need to collaborate really. Yes, so on that note, over to you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much for somebody who's not fully prepared. You have really done this topic justice. But still on you, I'll stick with you for a moment there. You hit on very, very salient points. And for me, it's two things: infrastructure and our digital identity. So I think we cannot fully tackle the conversation of digital identity without talking about local content, right? Most Gambian projects are still going to foreign companies. And if we're serious about digital identity, this should be something that is changed. It shouldn't be the norm. Most of the projects that we have should stay within the confines of this nation, because we now have, the former experience that we used to have is no more the case. We have good companies that are here that are fully capable. The capacity is already in-house. Okay? So, in terms of that, I'm bringing this point because you did mention about the identity cards, right? We know that it is with a foreign company. Our data at the airport is with a foreign company, and so many more. And this, if we cannot talk about digital identity and being sovereign, and this is still the norm, what is the government doing, in particular your ministry, to remedy the damages that have already been done?
This is very interesting. Thank you again, Madam Moderator. Let me begin with policies and laws. So when it comes to data being posted outside and all, I think we're very much aware, and we're very cautious. In fact, if you look at the draft data protection and privacy legislation that is coming in, I think government is trying to make sure that we have some of these things captured, and also captured in the new communications law that is coming in place. However, in as much as we want to have these legislations, infrastructure should be readily available. And then we know we still have a lot of housekeeping to do as a country. In as much as we want to make sure that everything is domiciled, we want to make sure we put our house in order. In fact, if you look at it, the current government email policy, this is why we're here to actually adapt it, because you want to tell all government officials you should be using your official emails, but technically you know you're not yet ready. So you have to address that first before making sure you have the policy in place. So now we have addressed that. So now you can talk about the policy. But on the local content, we are aware. I think all stakeholders that are involved, not only the Ministry of Trade, which is responsible for local content, I think should come up with policies on local content. And of course, we legislate some of these things. But sometimes our challenge has in capacity. And if you look at most of these major tenders that we do, sometimes they actually donor-driven, they are donor-funded. So, and sometimes most of these things is we are tied with procurement procedures. You have to go through ICBs, that is international competitive bidding. And if some of these things happen, you will have these firms that are coming together to actually submit. And I want to indicate my two panelists here are, they're very vast, and they are also invested, so they understand some of these things very well. But sometimes it's very difficult to have Gambians come together as consortium to submit proposals. I think we have really advised in a couple of instances where we can have firms coming together as a joint venture to submit. If we have this example, I think it will add a lot of weight, because when we evaluate, you will see a particular firm is good at A, but then you're good at B. But the folks from the, when they submit, they know all these things and they do that. This is why most of the time they will come out as the most responsive. But really, I think legislations and laws policies and laws should make sure we kind of, everything that we do stays here. Again, if you look at when we had the WASIP project, it was like a $35 million World Bank project. 25 went to the East. The entire 10 million, if we equate what stayed in the country, is peanuts. So local content legislation is very important. Now we are having the WADIC project, which is supposed to be $58 million grant in the country. At the end, we know how much stays. It's peanuts. So for us as a ministry, we are very, very concerned, and we want to make sure that most of these will stay in us. And we need to address them. We don't have the law, we cannot tell these people it has to be local. If we don't have the capacity, it will be a challenge. Thank you.
I think for me the key word is intentionality. We have to be intentional about this change, right? But yeah, Fatih. Okay.
First of all, everything he said, right? In addition to that, I just want to make a clarification. Now, you mentioned earlier that data is belonging to foreign officials. I don't work for the government, but I can almost defend them just to say that when it comes to the airport, there's no data that is in the hands of foreigners. The Gambia Immigration Department is in charge of border control, whether at Banjul International Airport or at the borders. And they have their own information collection systems to keep it for themselves. So there are IT departments that have this mandate, and they're doing that here in the Gambia, including Gambian government. The problem is, no one hears about IT people. They're the most quiet, conservative people you will ever find. All of you here. And majority of our Makas are all IT people. Am I right or am I right? So we have something strong about our country, which is that majority of people already working in the IT department are ethical, or they at least have strong values based on their religion or whatever it is. The things, maybe because it's halal, who knows? Is IT halal? Yeah. Anyway. But I'm just talking about the realities now of our country, right? These are the personalities we have in this department. So that already exists. The key thing is training, right? We have so many IT people trained in hard skills, to be technical. What we need is to create more hybrids, people who can communicate, and also teach them about the laws, the policies, include them in meetings to be able to participate. Now, if we're able to just merge, even if it's quarter of them, to become hybrids, be able to have the soft skills and understand the policies and laws, then maybe most of the work that Gambian IT sector does will come to light. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw when you were talking about creating the hybrid, Jojo is laughing because as somebody who has worked in a software company before, you do have a point. But yeah, I'm going to bring the conversation a bit down to the grassroots. And this question is going to go to Dr. Ndoro. When you look at our statistics, our economy is being driven by small businesses. They contribute immensely to our economy, but I feel like because they are too tiny, nobody really thinks about them. They suffer the shocks that the economy experiences. COVID, who suffered the most? It was the small and medium-sized businesses. As a company that, again, intentional about changing the narrative and giving them more power, empowering them to be more resilient using some of your software solutions, and this is, for instance, the Afrijula platform. What are the differences that you have seen with the coming of Afrijula and onboarding them? How have this changed them into becoming more resilient?
Thank you, Mimi, for that question. I just wanted to add, sometimes I tell my guys, you guys are mutants, but I think I'm a mutant too. Right, they're very different, socially adept, but amazing, very smart people, mashallah. So working with the, like I said, the micro businesses, a lot of the times, they're often overlooked, but very important population. They contribute a lot, billions of dollars to our economy. However, because they're not in a formal setting, or it's a one-man or two-man business, they're really not thought of as much. And so what we did with AfriJula is, I think a lot of research has to be done to understand what are the challenges so that we can come up with solutions. When we try to do things blindly, it does not work, and we cannot find the right answers, right? So you need to know what the problems are. So what we found is that some of them is the literacy levels, low literacy levels. So we need to make sure that when we create solutions, develop solutions, we're not creating it for people in Silicon Valley, people in America or the UK. We're creating it for our people who cannot read and write a lot of the times. So using a lot of audio, using our local languages, right? Using a lot of color coding, that's what we did with AfriJula. But we know that in our context, a lot of people wouldn't just go online and download a solution. They need to now have that one-on-one training and support, and we had to do that. So I think the government, the internet itself has the potential to be ubiquitous. It has the potential for everybody to use and everybody to have access to it. So they need to intentionally, as you say, drive universal access. But even when we talk about access, we need to make sure that it's meaningful access. Is it good quality? The speed, these are all things that we need to look at. The availability of the devices. And in certain countries, they actually make a deliberate effort, right? So in some countries, what they did is that they had some subsidies or tax cuts when it comes to devices. It means that now it's more affordable. So when we talk about affordability, it's also not looking at the price of a device, but you're looking at it compared to our earning potentials. So that's what the government needs to do. So we need to also look at the demand side issues. How can we, if people are more literate or if people have better digital literacy, then they're more likely to buy these devices. Can we also look at inclusion targets? We need these number of people in these regions to have access to these devices. What can we do? Are there loan schemes that we can introduce for these people? Can we provide some of these devices? Otherwise, as much as we drive digital transformation, either because of socioeconomic status or because of gender or where you live, some people are going to be left behind. So we need to make that deliberate effort. Let's do the research. Let's identify the issues. But the main things that we need to look at is access and affordability. But also, as we make the internet accessible for some of these vulnerable populations, we need to also protect them. And a lot of the times, you have a lot of misinformation that's out there. So I get people, especially during the COVID, that will, because of my background, they will send me information and ask, is this true? And a lot of these people that aren't that educated, it's easy for them to just take what they see online, because it's online, it's being said by someone who looks like a doctor from abroad, it must be true. So how can we make sure that these misinformation or untruthfuls that's out there, how can we put a stop? How can we protect our people from this misinformation, as well as other things as well? But also when we bring these laws, when we talk about data protection, cybersecurity, etc., we need to make sure that any policies that the government put in place, they can be adapted as technology evolves, and it's not restricting us, the innovators as well. So that's really important.
Thank you so very much, Jojo. You do have a point there. Like I said, for me, I believe intentionality is what drives all types of progress, and we have to. This concept of digital sovereignty and economic resilience, for me, is tripartite. We have the government, we have the businesses, and we have us, all of us in this room. We all have a role to play. And I hope that during this panel discussion, you guys can go back home and sit and ask yourselves, how do I contribute? What is the role that I can play? How do I make it better? We have about 5 minutes to wrap up, but before I take 3 questions, quickly for Fatim, as a strategist, especially for ICT for development, I need you to give Mr. Amudair to take back to his ministry 3 recommendations in achieving this.
Thank God the Honorable Minister is not here. No, it's always been a pleasure seeing Amadou grow to this level, and he really grew up through the ranks at the ministry, so I'm very pleased to have him here. And the PS as well, we have a long history together, both background in ICT, and we were together in the ministry together, so young, so young, doing things, having big plans. So to see all the development that the sector is doing, really, we're so proud of it. Really, I think one of the best stories of Gambia is emerging from the ICT sector in terms of the uptake. I think for me, the ministry, the only thing I would talk about would be about the data center. I think it would be critical to have that up and running nicely, and I know they already have plans to do that. The PS had alluded to that. I think it's very critical because all the departments, all the ministries, all the data we keep on collecting, it needs to be saved. Paper is not the way to go. I mean, I've seen how paper is stored in plastic bags and kept in containers. And, with time it runs out, and that's it. History is gone like that. Come in 100 years and we can't tell you anything about our time or how we did things. And so we are erasing our history with paper, in my view. And so really the ministry can help us with this. And thank God they're working on that. I think also perhaps digitalizing mails would be interesting because, a lot of leakages of mails that are supposed to go through government, people think it's just for the people to know what's really happening, but it's a security risk actually. It affects our sovereignty when certain information is out there in the public. And yes. So I think there needs to be a solution to digitalize our mails so that at least it can be filtered and the right person would receive the mails. Still going to records department, having that person write it in, put it in. It disappears. Some of you have applied for things. Has it not disappeared? Yes. On the record, you come back to find your birth certificate or something that was there that you filed a long time ago. They ask you for your copy, right? So these are things that we really need to get away from. I think also the ministry should look into research. I'm a big fan of research. I'm glad I'm sitting next to a wonderful doctor here who has graduated in that. But we have so much data from the University of the Gambia. So how many of you have done dissertations here? How many of you have done dissertations? A lot of you have done research. Where is it? Where? In your laptops. What if it shuts down? Right? Imagine having a source where we can keep all the research that we've done in this country from all those different topics of your own passion. Imagine the notebooks from grade 10. Today you should look at the grade 10 notebook for history. You'll be surprised at your notebook and that one from 2001 for me, and now how the history has changed all of a sudden. It's because it's not recording. We're still doing oral transfer of knowledge. Believe it or not, we are still there. We need to digitalize. So I think really this area would be great to support, especially with the UTG being like a good arm for the ministry to make sure that research is documented and our history is maintained digitally, of course. Thank you.
Yes, from Doctor.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to add a few things for the ministry. So we keep on talking about digitalization. But if our work processes don't change, then we're not moving anywhere. And an example I've given in the past is, for example, with Afridula, we have a digital loan application platform. When people apply, the banks would require you to still go in after, right? Because of central bank regulations. So we need to make sure when we talk about digital transformation, it's everything. It's the culture, it's the work processes, it's the policies, right? And the capacity that we're changing as well. Otherwise, it won't help. We can come on with a lot of systems, but it's not going to make much of a difference. That's one. Secondly, I think the ministry also needs to work on governance, but also partner with the private sector to implement a lot of these. So some of the plans that you already have players in the ecosystem working on these. How can you now support them to make it successful? How can we come together? You spoke about consortium. I think having PPPs is the best for this country to move forward. Gambia is a small country and there's a lot that we can do together. When you do travel to some of your forums, right, take along the private players because they can drive things as well. And then thirdly is to come up with these intentional targets in all sectors, intentional targets. This is what we want to do and this is how we're going to do it. I think it's important.
Okay, Menge, I'm not going to do justice to this until I also tell the ministry. We need cheaper rates for internet. And mobile, we really do. This should be a priority, honestly. If we're going to prosper and create a digital economy, we will require cheaper rates. We need to be able to tell players that this is how much the Gambia can accept as a rate. Are you ready to play with this number or are you ready to leave?
Just one more. Yes, so with the players, I'm here to defend INET, right? So you can't just say this is what you need to provide, but what are the challenges that they're dealing with? How can you make it easier for them to provide those cheaper rates? What are the subsidies you can provide? What are the tax breaks that you can provide for them? What are the main challenge is the unreliability of like the electricity supply, right? So unless the OMVG project works, unless you have that infrastructure, otherwise it's going to be difficult for them to bring the prices down, otherwise they will go bankrupt.
Okay, this is getting interesting.
If an ISP is running 7 hours on generator, I understand why internet price is going to be up.
I get all of that, but so are businesses paying for generators. I think really, it's a matter of policy and research. If a study is done to find the facts, how much they're really spending, find out the consumer rate, what the consumers are really looking for. This has been done before. Remember that UNCA sponsored this thing for mobile telephony? When you come in to invest, you must have a break for a period that would require you to get return on investment. And after return on investment, you should have cheaper rates for your consumers. Since you have started a mobile telephony company, still here, you're still at the same rate. Right now you're working on profit, constantly. There's nothing else there. Where does the consumer win at the end of the day? And I think this is because the consumers are not educated. And before, when there was a penetration of mobile in the Gambia, all operators in the telecom industry were required to educate. All the billboards were to educate you how and what the rates are in order to know whether it was, what is it called, MMS or picture, whatever, there was education. Right now, the problem is Gambians are not educated on the charge via data. It's a gloomy picture. I cannot even explain it to you, to be honest. And I studied ICT for development. So I think the education would be it. But I agree with Georgia, though, with all honesty, that business is becoming more difficult and they need more incentives, especially incentive for people hiring youths in our industry. Yes, thank you.
I love this conversation. Also wearing my Gaipa hat. We do give out special investment certificates. And most of the ISPs, they have these certificates. And they come back after 5 years for renewals. So there are certain companies that do have the tax breaks. I just don't know what the excuse is. But let's put a question mark on that, and we'll take 2 questions and wrap up.
4 questions, can you deny?
Yes, and I'm so hopeful because our director is taking notes.
Well, yes. And I want to start with the hottest cake, that is the tariffs. So I think this was the priority of the minister when he came. In fact, at some point, Minister will have to tell him, Honorable, you have to break a little bit. Because he just wanted to just declare, like what Honorable Fatim here just said. But a lot of consultation has been ongoing with the operators. And then if I take off my hat as ICT director and a consumer, and also just a Gambian, the sector is actually the most taxed sector, really. And as much as we want to reduce the pricing, the government policy is not actually allowing that. Because if you look at this sector, 15% VAT, 5% excise tax, you have to pay GRTS levy, there is sports levy here and there. In fact, everything government wants, we take from the telecom sector. And if you look at the operators and the players, the ISPs and the operators, the municipal taxes is also not harmonized. Example, a particular municipality will tell you, you pay per site. And a particular municipality will tell you, you have 10 sites in my region. Let's say you pay, let's say 100,000. But one particular CRR may tell you, you pay per site. So it's not harmonized. So as a ministry, we have engaged the Minister of Finance to look into some of these things. Because at the end of the day, if the pricing comes down, you're actually driving volume. Because now people cannot afford it. This is why they're not buying a lot of data. And there's actually a lot of internet hotspotting that is happening. And if you look at it, the quality of experience is terrible. People will pay $25 per day from these people that do internet hotspot, but they cannot even load one page. It's terrible. As a minister, we are looking into it, and the minister is so much concerned that he is going to implement this. And apart from the cost of data, the cost of calls also, if you look at our operators, what they are charging us is per minute. And that is not right. You talk for 30 seconds and you pay for 1 minute. You talk for 61 seconds, you pay for 2 minutes. So we as a ministry, we have written to Pura to make sure that we implement this. Because, of course, the ministry Pura is the regulator, so we expect the regulator to enforce some of these things. And of course, Pura will make sure that this is enforced. If you talk for 30 seconds, you're supposed to be billed for 30 seconds. But on the partnerships with the private sector, I recall sometime in December we went to Rwanda, and one thing I observed is they have RISA, that is our equivalent of the ICT agency, and their data center. RISA has partnered with a private sector entity to manage the data center. And I also recall before that we went to Ghana, their NITA, the equivalent of their ICT agency, their data center is actually also managed by the private sector. So that actually triggered me to ask that question, why are they partnering? Because here I was thinking, if we have the ICT agency will manage everything in place. But we were like, no, the agency is still going. The bureaucratic red tapes are still there. So when we came back, those are one of the things, some of the things that we took stock of. And then, when it comes to the data center management, we have indicated that fine government can happen, but the operation of the data center will be the private sector. We have written this thing, and we've already started. On research and development, like Honorable Patrick said, sometime last year, we partnered with UTG, their research development, to do a consultancy on the establishment of innovation hubs. Establishing an innovation hub at UTG and at the regional level. And the plan is we're going to implement that. Inside UTG, we have some funding, and also at the regional level, partnering with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, because obviously they have these youth centers, the Ministry of Trade and all the government stakeholders that are really involved. So that is happening. And from our GLF, I want to indicate we have some funds that government allocates for research and development, which has actually started, I think, like a year or two ago. So on the R&D, we're not doing much, but I mean, something has started. On digitizing the processes, I quite agree. It has to happen as of yesterday. On the ERMS, the movement of mails is terrible. Something needs to happen, and it's one of the priorities. Thank you.
You said why partner with the private sector? I said reliability, efficiency, and trust. That's why. But since I am here and being put on the spot, let me add to that letter that you are taking to Pura. Also, for the telcos that are selling data on MiFi, and they will tell you it's postpaid, but then you use until the 16th, and they tell you your gigabytes are done. How am I paying on a month-to-month on a postpaid service, but the delivery is prepaid? Right? If you can add that one on the letter, we really, really appreciate it. Our APU representative, Mr. Pons, is on the line as well. He also wants to ask a question, but while we facilitate that, we'll take one from the floor. Okay. Let's go with Council first. And if we can please keep it short and precise, we really have gone over time.
Okay, good afternoon. I am Ismail Ajawara. I am here as the chair for Gambia Security Committee. So, my question goes to the ministry, of course, about data governance and data sovereignty. Well, especially when the minister came, the honorable minister, he has been talking about digital identity so much, in all forums, even at the IGF, global IGF, you mentioned it there. So the worry is that the government as of now doesn't have, the government as of now doesn't have any. Can I park this and talk? Thank you. The government as of now doesn't have any data governance framework. And this actually caused a whole lot of problems where you have, government itself, hosting servers, email services with, Office 365 and a whole lot of, deployment of data on other areas. Cases like our electronic identity card. I don't have issues with private sector, not foreign companies using our industry for us. But the problem is, the problem is, whether the data is staying here in the country, data sovereignty. Now, what are we going to, what are we supposed to do with regards to making sure that, private sectors can come in? Of course, international big players can come in, but then we make sure that our digital identity information or, biometric data stays within the Gambia. Yes, Immigration Department is taking the forefront in making sure that collecting data and all that, but I can guarantee you the servers are not here, at the end of the day. So this obviously we all know for sure. And then obviously you go to CBG case, you go to GRA, you go to a lot of government agencies are using Office 365, the data is sitting somewhere in the cloud, and then these are confidential government data, sitting somewhere out there. We are not saying don't use them, but if the government did not come with, a framework to say, this is what is going to happen, and then if Microsoft should go against that, then you can have something to hold against them. So what do we do to pave the way forward with regards to this? Because we can't stop them from using technology. Thank you.
I wanted to say we had a whole session on data governance.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know whether we can have the entire conversation later in the afternoon in the interest of time. There's a whole session on data.
You're right.
I think we will all be here in the afternoon shop.
I love that. It's what you to say. Yeah.
When you say that you are sure, how sure do you know?
Very sure.
How sure do you know? So you know what? It's very important to not say things that you're not very, very sure about, because this could have implications, and it could affect your colleague, because, you have to find out to the public. So if you say that there's no data center here at immigration, are you sure?
I am very sure.
Okay.
So I mean, a point of correction or the
I
clarity.
will answer you later because I just texted them to find out.
Yeah. So a point of clarity. Of course, you can.
Yes.
So
no, because it's not implications.
It is. Thank you so much. Now, I'm not saying that the government did not. I mean, they are not having a data center. What I say, for sure, on record, is that we know that the data doesn't sit here. Now, the only government data center that I know, of course, right now, is the one at IFMIS. And I also know for sure, because as a technical person, if, for example, immigration, I don't want to mention other companies or institutions, is running on a server, and I've done my assessments, colleagues have done their assessments, and the data where it goes back to, we all know that. Do you get it? Now, I'm not saying that immigration is not taking the forefront in this, but if data sovereignty and data localization is not actually guaranteed, there is no way we can have data sovereignty.
But what I'm saying also is, which I agree with you,
yes,
your concerns are the very concerns of people who are responsible for it, whether it's the ministry, whether it's someone who's working in that position.
Yes.
This is a concern to them. And this has been ongoing for a long time. And I'm telling you that government has been taking this seriously in ensuring that the data remains.
So now I'm asking this question to the minister here.
Yes.
Are our biometric data on record? Are our biometric data sitting in this country?
So, on record, what I'll say is
Yes.
I wanted to take this later. That was a whole session on data governance. So, but really, on record, the data belongs to the government.
We know that.
Data belongs to the government, and then we have the data is stored at the premises of seminars in Gambia. On record. So, it belongs to us, and we store at the premises of seminars in Gambia. Okay. So later on, maybe some of the other conversation we can have online. We have as a ministry of concerns when it comes to certain things.
Right.
On these biometric ID cards. But what is important here is data belongs to government. So essentially that means nobody has any right to use our data without authority legally. So if someone does otherwise, the government has authorized to take the legal routes. So which officially as government officials, that is the most important thing, and we know they are stored at the servers at the Senate's HQ in
Also, lastly, there's going to be a session on security, cyber security. So I think a portion of this question should be addressed there as well. But unfortunately, we won't be able to take another question on the floor because Ponce's question is here and we're way above the time allocated for us. But this question goes to Amo. Ponce says, is the Tier 4 data center the ministry wants to have going to be located outside the Greater Banjul area like Basse, for instance, or does the ministry plan to use renewable energy for this data center?
Whether Basse or KMC or West Coast, I think we have not finalized, but most likely not in Basse for obvious reasons. So we want to have it somewhere a little closer. I think the feasibility study will determine the exact location. When you want to establish a Tier 4, you have a lot of things that you have to look at, to maybe redundancy, the access to the sovereignty, the power, but most likely not in the somewhere closer. Let's say the furthest place might be maybe Alana. That's the place. If you go as far as Alana, most likely around the GPA and this course. In fact, I think it was during Honorable Patin's time, but there was, in fact, a land identified in Tujaran for the Silicon Valley Initiative at the time. And when PS came back to the minister, we were told that I think we still have that stretch available, so which we can utilize. So I don't think it's going all the way to URI.
Thank you very much. I will encourage members of the panel to stick around so that when we have our breakout sessions, if anybody has a question, they could take it to bilaterals on the side. Thank you very, very much. A huge round of applause for this session. I am so proud of my panelists. And I would like to release you. Thank you so very much for joining me. It was my pleasure hosting this panel. And enjoy the other panel discussions. All right.
Hi everyone. Before we move on to the next session, we'd just like to announce that the Youth IGF, we're breaking out now, so the Youth IGF is happening in Press Room 2. So it's like opposite the reception area. So all the youth can go there now. And we'll now have the next session, which is on cybersecurity and trust. So I'll call on the moderator, Mr. Amadou Ba, to take over.
Thank you, Tres. as Tres rightly mentioned, we can have the students and some little youth to be in the next hall. The session we are going to have now is cybersecurity. We're going to have a panel discussion. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Menge, for that fantastic moderation. Honestly, you surprised me. Yeah. I was outside enjoying your panel with Biran. Honestly, your panel was very, very educative and it was interesting. And I think we have to give a round of applause to the panelists once again for the fantastic job that they did. Honestly, my sister Fatin did justice to the panel. The director of ICT did it, and my very good sister Jojo. These are all experts in their various fields, and they did justice to the topic. So for the youth IGM, as we rightly mentioned, the venue is just opposite opposite the receptionist. So, okay. So I would like to first invite my panelists into the panel discussion. First, I will start with the Gambia Police Force Public Relations Officer. Her representative is here, Madame De Toure, representing the Gambia Police Force. Can we put a round of applause for Madame De Toure to be in the panel, please? And can we have Mr. Malik Sala from the Gambia Computer Security and Incident Response Team, GMC SAT, to also be in the panel? And can we have Alen Sambu, the president and founder of South Gambia, also in the panel? We are supposed to have a representative from the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, and unfortunately, we could not get a representative because of some sudden changes in their program of schedule. And also we will be having another session after this where the ministry will be participating. So first, let's look at the brief background about this panel, cyber security. We know if you mention cyber security, it's the order of the day. You know, everyone is talking about cyber security. Everyone is concerned. Whoever in this hall has a mobile phone or a laptop, and you're concerned with the security of your mobile phones and your laptops, which are very, very important. And essentially, this panel, we are going to focus on cyber security and trust. When we say cyber security and trust, these are very, very important topics that we cannot afford not to talk about. Right in front of me, if you look at the panel, we have two government agencies, which is the Gambia Computer Security and Incident Response Team, which is an arm of the government operating under Kura. And we have the Gambia Police Force. We know if crimes are caught, we report cases to the police. And we have a civil society organization that is always putting pressure on the government and the private sectors to ensure we have that resilient cyberspace as far as cybersecurity and trust is concerned. And looking into my panels, I will start with Malik, who comes from the Gambia Computer Security and Incident Response Team. Malik, my first question is, GMC started operating in the Gambia as a kind of a semi-authority when it comes in terms of coordinating cybersecurity issues as far as the Gambia is concerned. Now, we want you to tell the audience if there are issues of trust as far as the GMC side is concerned. The reason why I'm putting this question, I know so many sides have issues of trust in so many countries because people are not very, very conversant in trusting the government to manage or coordinate cybersecurity affairs at the national level because of fear of.
By ITU, ITU. Yes, Ahmad, we still have trust lacking in cybersecurity at the GMC side and in the Gambia. Based on this, we are working with a lot of cybersecurity companies from the outside. You see an incident where we will have an alert regarding cybersecurity for an institution. We will send an advisory to that institution, but most of this institution does not know that there is an existence of a GMC SAR. So basically, most of them, they don't see that advisories as useful. So what they do is they will ask us, there is no policies drafted by the government. There is no policy drafted by the government. So, but right now, the government has the plan drafting policies. A minute. Sorry. The government has drafted a cybersecurity policy plan. That cybersecurity policy plan it involves 7 pillars, 7 policy pillars: building cybersecurity capacity, institutional framework for cybersecurity, governance and enhancements, cybersecurity legal and regulatory framework, critical information infrastructure protection, and cybersecurity capacity building and awareness, building a cybersecurity industry and international cooperation. This policy is already been drafted and is now at the Parliament, waiting for approval by the Parliament.
Thank you very much, Malik. That's very, very important for us to know. I have a very, very important follow-up question to that, but I will suspend that for now. I will go to Madame Dey Toure from the Gambia Police Force. Gambia Police Force being the force whenever incident occurs, the first thing that we think of is go and report it to police. My first question is the police prepared?
Okay. Assalamu alaikum everyone, and it's a pleasure being here representing our able PRO, Binta Sane. Yeah, Mr. Ba, that is a very good question. I can say police is very, very, very much prepared when it comes to people personal identifiable information, which is known as digital. And Gambia Police Force is actually serious about cybersecurity because that's why we now have cybercrime units. It is established by ECOWAS and through ECOWAS, and it has been equipped with digital forensic investigation tools, whereby if someone comes to do, let's say, launch a complaint, we conduct, let's say, digital investigations, prepare reports, and we make sure that the information that we collected from that device is actually secured, just as you is supposed to be. As a digital investigation professional, we have to follow chain of custody to make sure that we get the integrity of that information, so it can be the evidence can be accessible in the court of law. So we are actually working hard, and for the time, we'll just stop here. If we go further, I would like to talk about the things that the Gambia Police Force is going to actually go digital and make sure that those information that are being collected are actually secure. Because if you go digital, then you have to also consider about the cybersecurity aspect of it. Because you're collecting people's sensitive information, and then security measures need to be in place to actually protect those information. So, yeah.
Very good. Before I go to Annette, I have a very, very important follow-up questions. The Gambia Police Force has one of the most equipped digital forensic lab. I am a testimony to that. They have one of the most equipped digital forensic lab in this sub-region. But these questions keep coming. We have never seen the Gambia Police Force provide any evidence in the law court when you come in terms of prosecution that are generated from this lab. If there has been, we will want you to update this group, some of the examples of prosecutions or cases that have been, incidents that have been prosecuted in the law court, and this evidence were extracted using those tools.
Exactly. I will not read to prosecution level because we have prosecution office in the Gambia Police Force. So our responsibility is for us, when a crime is being committed, a device is brought to us, we conduct investigations, we write our reports, we send it back to the office that actually requested the digital investigations. So they will take those reports to the court. So if the courts go through those information, those reports, and then they feel like a digital forensic expert needs to come and explain more or in details about those investigation that has been committed, that has been investigated. So then from there, cybersecurity expert will normally go. But because I can testify that I have conducted a lot of digital investigations in the Gambia Police Force, and for security reasons, I wouldn't want to mention this.
I understand.
But,
I understand.
yeah, so I can say the coup that happened last time here, the coup attempt that happened, I think we are all aware about it.
Yeah.
So we have I personally conducted that investigation. It was assigned to me by the Inspector General of Police, which I did. I did all the investigations with my team, and then we actually drafted a report based on what we have found on those devices, and we make sure that we don't put at the president is the one who asks us to do this, but we always make sure we follow chain of custody. We have no relationship with the president or with the IG to actually manipulate the reports in their favor. We conduct investigation, we write report based on what we have found during the investigations, and I myself can testify to that. I have submitted the report to actually the office of the IGP and then the SIS. So from there, and then that's where we stop.
Yeah, but wait. I have to put you in a hot seat today.
Yes.
The Gambia Police Force is being bullied from all angles. We have seen instances where the police will present audio recordings in court without going through the normal chain of custody. And in most instances lead to some of these cases being kicked out of the court. without the criminals being prosecuted, and they end up walking free. I believe you have your counterpart police officers in the crowd. If anybody want to add Jimbo to what I am saying,
I think
do that qualifies your first question, your first statement that the Gambia police force is fully ready when you come in terms of cybersecurity and cybercrime?
I can say, when it comes to digital investigations, the Gambia police force is actually ready.
It's not about the digital investigation.
Yes,
here we're talking about...
Yes, when it comes to cybersecurity, the Gambia police force, some of the people in the Gambia police force really cybersecurity, the capacity building in cybersecurity. Because I can say, right now, the digital investigators that we have in the Gambia police force right now is not even up to 5.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always, any investigation that is to happen, I have to be there. I have to make sure that everything is investigated well. We follow proper chain of custody. And the issue also that we have is sometimes also the laws that they are not in place. Sometimes someone can commit a crime, you do your investigation and everything. But what is the law? The laws are not there to actually prosecute these people.
I'll tend to disagree to some extent. Yes. Sometimes your force, this is what they use to confuse us. Yes, the audience are here. We have to be frank. We have the Information Communication Act, which has a full-fledged section of the act that talks about cybercrime. And what we notice as an expert in the domain is the reason why most of the cases split through your fingers, you people, is because whenever these cases are taken to court, you use the criminal code to prosecute criminals.
In some cases.
And not essentially, let me not. Essentially, you will agree with me. Right. You guys are here, anyone can step in. You will agree with me, the criminal code does not address, in fact, it doesn't address even 20% issues relating to cybercrime. Criminal code is a colonial law. Yes. It was here since before cybercrime becomes a problem in society.
Most of the time we use criminal code voluntary.
Thank you. So, if the force is saying we don't have the laws, it baffles us in the ecosystem. You know why? We have international treaties that the Gambia government has signed. We have the Malabo Convention, the director of ICT is here, which has recently been ratified by the Gambia government. These are treaties that the police force, the prosecutors can use. Yes. These are things that the prosecutors can use in the law court to ensure cyber criminals are prosecuted.
Absolutely.
So what is the first thing?
I can say, we are talking about the IC Act 2009, right? So some of those the IC Act 2009 actually focused more on telecommunications, right? So there's only a small portion that talks about misuse of digital information, this extortion and others, and others. So basically, some of the investigations are actually above that prosecution.
Use the international treaties.
No, that was signed just recently. When I don't know if some people are actually even following, even on Facebook, I posted there. I was so happy that we were able to sign that treaty. It was signed by Minister of Communication and Digital Economy, Usman Eba, right? Usman Ba, yes, Usman Ba. So when I heard that, I was very happy. So I was like, now, if we have cases, I will just go use that. You understand?
We will be watching. I'll come back.
Exactly.
We'll be watching. I'll come back to you. Annette, South Gambia, the civil society, the likes of South Gambia, Gambia Cyber Security Alliance, GAMCON, are doing a lot of advocacy in terms of cybercrime. You heard what our able people from the government, what they stated. Malik said yes. At the GMC, there are issues of trust because they sent communique that is the situational report in terms of vulnerabilities that are detected on specific networks, but they are not taken seriously. They'll be like, these are some folks with Max Junga sitting at Abuko Art Station trying to send us a report to say, your network is vulnerable. So they don't take them seriously. The police force, yes, has one of the most equipped digital forensic lab, thanks to OKWAC through the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy. But still, we have issues of trust. You are working with the public. Why do you think trust is a problem in cybersecurity?
Thank you, Amadou. Good afternoon to everyone here. Thank you for having me on this panel. As you already said, there is the issue of trust. And one of the major causes of this, as someone that has been addressing issues of online harassment for the past 4.5 years now, one of the main reasons why there is lack of trust is because of awareness. People are not really aware. Majority of the time when I conduct trainings for young people, especially when it comes to cyberbullying and all that, we realize that so many of us are bullies online. But if you want to call anybody out to them, it was just a way of making fun or exploring the use of the internet among others. But awareness raising is very important for government to take issues of cybercrime seriously. They need to understand how these issues really affect victims. And it just doesn't affect victims alone, it affects victims, it affects the family, it affects the community that they're coming from, it affects the country as a whole. As I keep saying, if issues of cyberbullying, issues of online violence are not addressed, where are we tomorrow in terms of social and economic development of the country? So we have a lot of issues to address, but one of the key focus areas should be to create more awareness on issues of cybercrime for people to understand what it is about. The issues are happening, but they don't really know what it is or to qualify what sort of cybercrime it is at all. So to answer your question, one of it is awareness.
Just to add to that, I recall last year, GMC started with other stakeholders, the ministry, MOBI, and GCSA, they are part of a sponsor program from UNESCO. We were doing cyber security awareness and cybercrime awareness, going to the schools, radio program and TVs. I think even they was part of that program for almost 1 month, cyber security awareness program.
Thank you. Malik, I'm coming back to you. From the GMCs, you made mention of issues of trust, and I'm happy that you made mention of the 7 pillars, which include the critical infrastructures. Can you tell this gathering what is the relationship between GMC and CISA and all the, I think Gambia has, 42, directly if I'm not mistaken, 42 identified critical national infrastructures. What is your collaboration with all these national critical information infrastructures?
Thank you, Ahmed, for that question. The mandate of GMCSA is to secure this cyberspace of the Gambia. So basically what we do, we are in partners with some cybersecurity companies outside. What they do is they do a daily scan on the nodes in the country, and they'll send the alerts to us. From there, we identify which IP is owned by which institution, and we send an advisory to the institution for them to remediate or set or recommend how to fix the affected system in their network. I can remember we were